Happy Sunday, my friends. Happy Easter. I hope everybody is having an amazing day, celebrating with their friends and family, taking some time off and pausing for a little bit of reflection. We can see even our president is apparently doing that, or at least the person who runs his Twitter account is. We're going to take a look at some Easter reaction on Twitter because apparently there were some Christian terrorists who took over an airplane and started singing Christian hymns on Easter. And this is something that Ilhan Omar, one of our representatives who happens to be Muslim, she reminds us every single time she possibly can about this status, very unhappy with these evil Christians who were kind of insurrecting an airplane. So we'll take a look at that. I've got a big question about Joe Biden. I was wondering where he was on Friday. I'm not sure that he knows where he was. And if it's not written down on a calendar, probably not going to ever figure that out. So we've got an update on that because his schedule was posted, but it's missing Friday. So we'll see what maybe he was doing on Friday. I don't know, but we'll go through that. We've got some other news, locals, stories, some YouTube supporter member comments, and we'll get into it. But you can see on Easter, Joe Biden came out bright and early, 7:35 a.m., April 17th, from the White House, apparently. You can see that because it says the White House here, but no, he wasn't there. As we reflect on Christ's resurrection, he says, we are reminded that with faith, hope, and love, even death can be defeated. From our family to yours, we wish you health, hope, joy, and the peace of God, capitalized, which passes all understanding. Happy Easter, and may God bless and keep you. All right. So you can see a couple of these comments came in. Said, you're a real president after so many years with the darkness in the last squatter. Oh, so it's a Trump comment, which of course is typical. You know, some people just cannot let go. Everything's about Trump, even on Easter. But that's what the president said. Over at the White House, you can see they have a very fancy Easter graphic. They got some eggs up here, which probably cost a couple $1 million to have a graphic artist design those and get those inserted onto the website. But they got it done, which is pretty amazing for this administration. So we had the statement from the president on Easter. We have several others announcing some nominees. We've got a statement by Joe on Passover, same type of statement here, saying happy Passover. Jill and I wish you and your loved ones the best. So kind of typical presidential duties. We have an egg roll. White House announced that there's going to be an egg roll. It's going to have a theme called Egg-ucation. Very clever, on the South Lawn. I wonder if Joe Biden's going to be there. In total, 30,000 people are going to take part in this. It's going to happen at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time and then end at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Well, I was wondering, where is Joe? Is he going to be there? Because on the headlines show that we've been doing here, for the last couple of days, we've been checking in on the president's calendar and we haven't been able to find him. You can see, we'll get rid of some of these statements, but here's the president's calendar. And if you remember, we were going back to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we could kind of follow him along, but then he kind of fell off the map right after Thursday, and there was nothing on Friday. He had a full day Thursday, probably wore himself out, and so took the day off, I guess, on Friday. And for the longest time, we didn't even see Saturday or Sunday. Of course, today is Sunday, and now it's been posted and updated. So the White House, apparently, they're having an egg-ucation, egg roll, but Joe Biden's not there. Apparently, he's going to land at 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. The egg roll is going to end right about that time. So he's kind of missing all those kids and all that, nonsense, kind of loud for him. So he's going to miss all that. But where was he on Saturday? Because we don't have any travel time. So he must have already left. So if he's coming home on Sunday, that means he was gone apparently on Saturday. And we don't see that I guess he was at Camp David. He arrives at Camp David at 5:10 on Thursday. So he must have been at Camp David all this time because we don't have any activity for where he was on Friday. So presumably what that means, and the reason why this is important, I think, is because we're going to see the White House is sort of faking this whole activity thing. Here on Saturday the 16th, we look at the schedule. On Saturday, the president has no public events scheduled. In-town pool call time, presumably because he's out there in Camp David. But if you go over to the White House, and of course the White House is having their egg roll and all that stuff. But if you take a look at something else the president posted, you'll notice this. He posted this at 7:19, April 16th, once again from the White House, says, hey, Fred Gutenberg, thanks for stopping by the White House. And he's had this video of him walking around the White House, and they still have their masks on. And this is posted, on Saturday, the 16th. 41,000 likes, 4.1 million views. They're having conversations with their masks on. Joe Biden's calling his wife.
Hers? Yes, I'm going to call her right now.
I'll call her right now.
Jennifer, this is Joe Biden. Happy anniversary, kiddo.
So they're still wearing their masks like, I don't know if that's federal policy now. I can't keep track anymore. But is this an older video? I don't know. But they're clearly in the White House at the Oval Office, presumably. And Joe Biden's not there, according to his calendar. So his calendar says that he's over in, I presume, Camp David. Got there Thursday. Have no idea where he was Friday. On Saturday, he said he's meeting with Fred Gutenberg. Fred Gutenberg had a child, my children, Jesse and Jamie. Jamie was murdered in Parkland. My life is dedicated for gun safety. So, a grieving parent going to, fight for what they believe to be the problem and try to fight for a solution. Nothing I think is wrong with that. But very interesting that the White House is trying to proffer forward that they had this nice little meeting in the White House on April 16th. No, they didn't. Joe Biden was not there. And he's got 4.1 million views on this. So kind of weird, weird activity. Where is Joe Biden? I did a Google search to see if this was the right place to be looking for this. Here, Google tells us, go over to FactBase. That's where his schedule is. WDEL.com doesn't have any more details on it. The White House is not publishing it. I mean, if I go to Joe Biden's schedule, they send me to the White House, whitehouse.gov. It's not going to be on there. So he's on the schedule for the other days, but not on Friday. So nobody knows where he was. Now, speaking of Easter, we have some other reaction from other people. And I want to make sure that if you have kids in the room, we're now going to talk about the Christian terrorists. They took over an airplane and they started singing Christian hymns, which is, a lot to take in, especially on, a Sunday like today. Here you can see that Ilhan Omar flagged this for us. You can see this video has gotten 27.5 million views. This came out on April 16th from another Twitter account called 50 Shades of Way. Lot of attention here. And at 8:12 p.m., Ilhan Omar, one of, I believe, 2 Muslim House of Representatives elected officials, you see here, according to Wikipedia, tells us that. Omar is the first Somali American, first naturalized citizen of African birth to represent Minnesota, one of 2 Muslim women in Congress. She's been the target of death threats and harassment, and misleading claims by Donald Trump. What? Poor woman. So that obviously is, mortal sin. But anyways, you can see that she posted this clip. Now, these people, that guitar looks like it has strings. Those strings can be pretty pointy, Probably a terrorist attack. Probably should charge them for insurrection. But let's watch and listen to this horrible activity. Watch. Wow. This is shocking. Now, I guess they're singing and, quite shocking, really, behavior. And, I'm not real sure what to make of it. Look at this guy. Who does he think he is, just taking over an airplane like this and making the passengers endure melodies, the worst. But anyways, Ilhan Omar says, I think my family and I should have a prayer session the next time I'm on an airplane. How do you think it will end? And it's interesting because as we learn, she is a self-identified Muslim woman and she is one of 2 of them. So her religion is a little bit different and, it requires a little bit different context. Now, I'm not sure how much Ilhan Omar knows about America or how much she cares, but there was a time in this country where we had, allegedly, the narrative goes, several Muslim terrorists who commandeered airplanes and flew them into fields and buildings and the Pentagon. And I don't believe, I could be mistaken about this, I was only in high school at the time, don't think that they were singing Christian hymns on the way down. So things are just a smidge different. People have a memory that is a little bit sticky, and there's happens to be a pattern that exists for one religion that doesn't happen for another religion in quite the same way. So a lot of reaction to that. Ilhan Omar, of course, always making waves, always being somebody who is ruffling the feathers. Any opportunity she gets to tell us that, things are not quite equal exactly the way that she wants, she'll let us know, because I'm pretty sure she's just kind of miserable and she wants everybody else to be as miserable as her. As long as those campaign funds keep going into her coffers, she can keep funneling over, those over to her husband and making a field day. So that's more Ilhan Omar and the Christian terrorists. Speaking of Twitter, Jack Dorsey was active over the weekend, and he was sort of hinting that I think he might be supportive of Elon's attempt to take over Twitter. You can see from Westphalian Times, we've got a couple screen grabs of some of Jack's tweets, and he was saying, in response to somebody else, big facts, which is, kind of vernacular these days for I totally agree with everything you just said. You absolutely nailed it. And this person, his name is Tren Griffin, came out and said, a quote from Fred Destin, some other founder or some other, a guru of some sort, says, "What I do know for sure is that this old Silicon Valley proverb is grounded in the age-old wisdom that still applies today. Good boards don't create good companies, but a bad board will kill a company every time." And so Jack, of course, Dorsey, one of the original co-founders of Twitter, says big facts on that, which I think is implying that boards can be very destructive and very difficult to work with, which has always been my experience. Not that I'm a part of any boards, of this caliber or anything like that, but largely, boards I think are kind of antiquated old modalities that typically are just a bunch of people around talking about things, moving resources around. Nothing really effective gets done. When you bring in a guy like Elon, who can actually, sort of vertically integrate a lot of processes and drive things, stuff gets done. It's pretty amazing how that works. Jack got diluted down to, a several percent shareholder at some point in time and sort of lost control of the company. And so he's sort of, out there expressing remorse over the fate of what has happened here. Somebody else came out and said, if you look into the Twitter board, it's intriguing as I was a witness on its early beginnings, mired in plots and coups, and particularly amongst Twitter's founding members. I wish if it could be made into a Hollywood thriller one day. And then Jack, again, he's out 18 hours ago, says, it's consistently been the dysfunction of the company. And you can see maybe that's sort of, a look behind the scenes, a peer under the veil of why Jack left Twitter, because he got tired of this sort of, round and around we go. A user then asked him, "Are you allowed to say this, Jack? You're on the board still. You've got a fiduciary duty to the board and to the company. You can't kind of get out there and start running your mouth saying that the board is basically a total mess. Can you say those things?" Remember, Elon was going to get in all sorts of trouble for getting out there and being outspoken about his perspective on what should happen at Twitter. People were saying, you've got a fiduciary duty, which many people are arguing is why he didn't ultimately take the board seat. So Jack just says, no, I'm not supposed to be doing this. You're right, I do have a fiduciary duty, but I'm tired of not being able to speak out. And then he posts a link to Radiohead, Karma Police, which, it's not responsive directly to anything, but he's kind of saying Karma Police. You board members are, kind of have a history of these coups and this drama and trying to, fight against some of the founding members. And he says, it's all coming back to fruition now. You guys were the big bullies for a long time. And now there is a bigger fish, as there always is. Elon is in here and he's causing them to really freak out about this. And it's been really hysterical to watch. So let's check out some stories over on Locals. We can see Grouchy Old Cat Ladies here shares with us actual poll results from that bill out of Florida that is causing a lot of controversy. You can see here, this is involving the Florida bill that's sort of the centerpiece of Disney and all of this controversy over children's and certain issues that are difficult to say the words on YouTube because of YouTube. Here you can see it says, when Americans are presented with the actual language of the new Florida law, it wins support by more than 2-to-1 margin. This comes over from Public Opinion Strategies, turning questions into answers. Public Opinion Strategies recently conducted a survey of registered voters. This took place over 3 days late March. A total of 1,000 registered voters, plus or minus 3.5%. Fully 2/3 of voters think it's inappropriate for teachers or children personnel to discuss gender identity with children in kindergarten ages in 3rd grade. 67 to 21% margin, Americans say the discussion of gender identity is inappropriate for children in kindergarten through the 3rd grade. Fewer than 10% of Americans want to see gender removed from birth certificates. And finally, by more than a 2-to-1 margin, Americans believe transgender athletes should play on sports teams that match their birth gender. 60% to 24% margin, voters believe that athletes should match their birth gender teams, while Republicans 85 to 7%, independents 60 to 23 largely agree. Democratic voters are unsure, 39 to 36. But what's interesting about that is it's not a total flip. Republican on a lot of the issues like this, you see sort of big groupings on either side of the political spectrum. So the Republicans here, 85 to 7, right? Massive grouping. On these issues, you typically will see like a flip of that. Like, for example, maybe a gun control or abortion or any hot button issue. You see big groups of Republicans on one side and the opposite group of the Democrats on the other side. Here, we don't really see that. There's not that big lopsided Democratic contingent that's in favor of this, which is very interesting. kind of means I think it doesn't have as much sort of staying power as many people might lead you to believe. In other words, the Democrats are not going to be as anchored in on that issue when it comes up again. So happens to be coming up soon in November. We're going to have the midterms and we'll see. I mean, the Republicans are already really beating this issue hard. You're seeing Twitter and different companies sort of, censor a lot of this stuff. I think Jack Posobiec got a ban on Twitter for, using the G word, which is now illegal. And there's a lot of very interesting things going on. I saw a very interesting tweet from a guy by the name of Mark Andreessen. Let's pull that up. Here it is. Mark Andreessen says, I predict essentially identical censorship and deplatform policies across all layers of the legacy internet stack. So what we're seeing on Twitter, what we're seeing on Facebook, what we're seeing on YouTube, and every other platform that exists that's sort of a big one, is going to be the internet legacy stack. Client-side, server-side, internet service providers, cloud platforms like Amazon, CDNs, content distribution networks, payment networks, Visa, MasterCard, all of those old PayPals, client OSs, browsers, email clients, with only rare exceptions, he says. The pressure is intense. And he's saying that on April 16th, 3:11 p.m. as the whole internet is talking about Elon versus Twitter. Twitter, as we know, took a big poison pill so that they're going to be able to dilute their shares essentially to jack up the costs for Elon. There's been speculation from guys like Mark Cuban that Elon maybe joins up with other guys like Peter Thiel and maybe even DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, to crowdfund some of this, right? So you're starting to see sort of the C part, as it were, into the old establishment who wants to maintain the same Twitter societal, political, hierarchical control that exists as it stands. Twitter hasn't been a good investment for the last, as long as it's been around, really. The stock has been pretty stagnant. But when you start to see people who are panicking because their old communication platform is starting to, they're losing grip of it, you can see that maybe that valuation of 54.20, even though it's higher than the market average right now, it's still not worth it to them. They'd rather pay maybe $100 a share because it gives them political power. That sale price at 54.20 is not valuable enough because even though their stock is not appreciating, they still have leverage over certain political conversations and speech that is happening on the platform, which is serving them. And so they'd rather maintain the status quo. And we'll see what's going to happen. Elon has communicated that he's got a plan B in place, and it's going to be a very interesting road ahead. Another story over from locals from Three Girlies from Fox News says Michigan kindergartner brings Jose Cuervo margaritas to snack time. Made students woozy. Let's read this story from Fox. It says the alcoholic drink was brought in a student's background. A Michigan kindergartner brought a bottle of ready-to-drink Jose Cuervo margaritas to school and reportedly passed out drinks. The incident happened at Grand River Academy in Michigan. Kindergartners were allegedly handed the drink by another student. One of the parents of the kindergartners, Alexis Smith, said her daughter had a Dixie cup full of the margarita drink. Took around 4 or 5 sips. She felt a little woozy, a little dizzy. Added that her daughter was only told what was inside the drink after she drank it, and daughter gave her a funny face when she told the teacher. The girl poured it in her cup, drank it, and the girl ended up telling her what it is. It was brought in a school backpack. It's impossible to keep an eye on everything that they bring to school, so hopefully all the kids are okay. A couple sips, and hopefully, nobody got alcohol poisoning or anything like this. Sounds like the teachers may have caught on to it pretty quickly. School said poison control was called after they drank it. Parents were called immediately. The kindergarten is going to be disciplined if necessary. So, all right, that's kind of a funny story. Hopefully everybody's all right there. Yeah, and thank you to Three Girlies for that story. Shout out to the girlies. Hopefully those girlies aren't, hitting that Jose Cuervo over there, Three Girlies. Keep your eye on them. All right, let's see what else. Comments on this, grouchy old cat lady. Oops, yeah, they're starting younger and younger. Well, it's a stressful place. The world's really, difficult these days. Kindergartners too. They're growing beards now, and they're not doing normal activities anymore. So why not bring them back to, they're learning about all sorts of interesting, horrendous things that are only for adults. Why not just give them some booze too? Give them some heroin too while we're at it. What the hell? All right, let's see what else we've got. Yeah, Radice makes that same point. Yeah, why not allow alcohol? They can learn about genders and what their teachers do on their own time. Why teach reading, writing, and arithmetic? Three Girlies. They probably thought the classmates needed to drink after their recent trainings that are taking place in school these days. So that's a great thread over on Locals. And thank you for those comments. Let's take a look at some YouTube member comments. Thank you for your support here as well, my friends. We see here the Derek came in with a comment, says, what happened to the daily show? Not enough material these days? Well, we're doing sort of a daily headlines now, but it is not the daily live show. The daily live show was a lot of work for one platform, one show in one location, and it just wasn't working with YouTube. Essentially, I was keeping all my eggs in one basket, and now I've been able to diversify my content, and I've explained that I'm sort of becoming a multi-platform species, like Elon. I'm inspired by Elon. And so I'm going to bring back some of the lives. It's going to be something that I'll probably slowly integrate when I do have the time, but I've got other responsibilities to my law firm and to some of the other projects that I'm working on, and the live show would require me to sort of block out a huge portion of my day to dedicate to that. It's just me doing all of this. And so it was just a little too much for me to juggle in addition to some of the other things I want to accomplish. So it's very dynamic. I know a lot of people are frustrated with it, but I will be bringing them back sort of, sparingly, intermittently, and then probably more frequently as I create more space in my schedule and in my future days. But for the time being, this is what we've got. I know some people like it. Some people are disappointed about it, but I hope that you'll stick around and bear with me as the show evolves and continues to develop. So that's what's going on there. Thanks for asking about it, the Derek. We've got Michael Maclackland. What a great name. Michael Maclackland is here, says, I hope this channel continues to grow. We need good reporting now more than ever. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. And if you want to help with that in any way, shape, or form, I always love it when you share it and just say, hey, we're talking about fun stuff over here. That's very helpful, but a great comment. Thank you, Michael. Another one here says, great. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Cool Guy 1800s here says, arrest Hunter. That was on the video yesterday. And there may be some indictments forthcoming. We know that, there's a lot of inquiries going on. There's David Weiss, who's one of the U.S. attorneys out of Delaware, is not really talking much about this, but there's kind of a lot of smoke here. And what made me think that this was something that was really more of a possibility than maybe I thought previously was the rapid speed by which the Democrats and many people in the media have suddenly said, oh, well, this Hunter Biden thing might be kind of a big deal. We're starting to get nervous about it. We saw many people, even on CNN, sort of talking about this, saying, do you stand by your statements that you said that Hunter wasn't involved in any of Joe Biden's affairs or Joe Biden didn't know anything about Hunter? Like, do you stand by those statements? And those questions are now coming out. Of course, it is very convenient that they only come out after Biden wins and takes office. And maybe they want to throw him out because there's about to be a red wave that takes place in November. So it might be a little bit of persuasion to sort of kind of grease the skids so that when the time comes, Joe Biden can be just planted nice and sound on that zip line and just right out the window. So maybe they're going to be doing that. We're not so sure. Peas and Butter was commenting on the Fox story. And there was another great comment on this. I forget who it was. I gave it a heart. And it was a great comment. Somebody said, at the start of your video on this one, Rob, you started by killing an insect, an innocent insect who just flew into your house. And then at the end of the show, you're talking about cute little ducklings. What kind of monster are you? How hypocritical could you possibly be? Which is a fair point. It's true. Some creatures, let's say some species here, are a little bit more cute than others. And bugs flying around here, they don't get my sympathy, and they must be eliminated, as they were. Here you can see Peas and Butter also said, haha, selling mugs is not your cup of tea. That's true. And I like that. There's like multiple meanings there. Sell like a mug and tea. You drink tea maybe in a mug. I like it. Peas and Butter also says, LOL, Chicken City makes more money than CNN Plus. The stars of Chicken City work for bugs, corn, and water. They are literally chickens overtaking the entire staff of CNN. And I've been paying a lot of attention to this, sort of going around on YouTube. The numbers came out on some CNN shows like, Maddow. I know she's not really broadcasting much anymore for whatever reason, but some of the other fill-ins for her, right, they're getting under like 100,000 views a show, which is crazy because there are some big YouTube channels, not even big channels, like, medium-sized channels, like 1 million subscribers or 1.2 or whatever, that are getting more views than that on every video they release. And it's kind of, it's a wild time to think that you can have a YouTube channel that's bigger than CNN in terms of total eyeballs. And you can just run the simple math on that, right? Let's take one of those shows that gets 100,000 views every night. Okay, they're on 5 nights a week times 4 weeks a month. So that's 20 broadcasting days times 100,000 subscribers. That's or viewers every show, right? You just do the math on that. What's the total number of views as you calculate all that up? and then you take a look at a standard YouTube channel and see what they're getting, total views. YouTube channels are crushing CNN on some of these shows. And man, I think they can feel that, which is why they're so freaked out about it. And if you go back and analyze my math, I probably botched all of it, but you get the picture right here. It's something where the views on YouTube are outsizing entire networks, which is why they're so freaked out about it. And there's going to continue to be pushback. They don't want to lose Twitter. They already know they're hurting elsewhere. And so happy Easter comments coming in, and we'll just leave it there, my friends. Happy Easter to you and your families. I hope everybody is celebrating however it is you celebrate on this holiday, spending time with those you love. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, amazing rest of your week as it kicks off tomorrow on Monday. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.